It's time for Waking Up with Wesley. Today's forecast and weather-wide discussion with WLOX First Alert Weather's senior meteorologist, Wesley Williams.
Waking Up with Wesley is sponsored by Exclusive Auto Brokers. For the best deals on wheels, visit Exclusive Auto Brokers on Beatline Road in Long Beach.
All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you for waking up with Wesley. I'm Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams. Let's get right to this morning's time lapse because I think it was fascinating to see a big area of thunderstorms that were right near the coast, but then they fell apart. But they also produced a pretty dramatic view for us. Let's take a look at this time lapse. It was over Gulfport just around 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to hit play on this. And you see the whoosh of the dark storm clouds, the rain that took place mainly offshore. And then when the sun came up, that rain shower just completely fell apart. The drier air just kind of brought an end to that particular shower on the coast of Harrison County. Now, we did see some rain in other parts of the Mississippi coast as well. I'll switch, after this runs one more time, I'm going to switch it over to the Biloxi time lapse and take a look at what it looked like from the Beau Rivage. All right, so let's switch it on over to the other time lapse. And that switch takes place right there. Okay, so same time, just different vantage point. Now we're looking from the Beau Rivage toward the west in Biloxi. And there's that same, wow, low rain cloud. And then it was gone. And the sun came out right after it. And it's just a nice, beautiful morning. Just look at how beautiful. You know, you have the dark sky at sunrise, but then the bright sky a few hours after sunrise. I mean, it is looking nice and pretty. That's a postcard picture right there, folks. It makes me want to run, not walk, but run to the Biloxi beachfront as we go into the remainder of our Wednesday morning. Let's take a look at current conditions in the Mississippi coastal area. We got temperatures that are approaching 80 in Wiggins and the rest of the area right behind them. The winds are kind of variable, but there are mainly winds from the east and northeast across the area at about 5 to 10 miles an hour. Here's a look at First Alert radar. The last remnants of those early morning coastal showers are now moving over to Alabama. So we're done as far as rain's concerned. So far today has actually wound up close to what was predicted. We knew there would be early coastal showers early in the day, and then we also knew that we would get this kind of lull in the activity during the late morning, 9, 10, 11 in the morning. The rest of what we are predicting is for there to be new showers and storms to develop heading into Wednesday p.m. So don't be caught off guard by those. If you're heading out today, make sure that you have an umbrella handy in case we see them in your neck of the woods. There's a look at those temperatures for the rest of the area. As you can see, most of the numbers that are reported are mainly in the 70s, but that's going to change here as we get into the 80s going into the next hour. And like you can see, those showers and storms probably going to pop up somewhere. You know, if we kind of zoom out and you ask, will it rain somewhere in the 6 southernmost counties of Mississippi today? The answer is easy. The answer is yes, it probably will. But once you start to see, you know, oh, well, will it rain in my county? Will it rain in my city, my town, my neighborhood, my street? Yeah, it's hard to be that precise with this type of weather pattern that we have in place. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. But let's talk about the temperatures, because this is my favorite part about this weather pattern. You know, the rain, trying to predict whether it will happen for your house, your, job or whatever, that's kind of tricky. But the temperatures are not tricky at all. We are not expecting to see any type of extreme heat today. We are expecting the temperatures to be like they have been the last few days, upper 80s to lower 90s. The places that get to the lower 90s will be places that see the fewest clouds, the least rain. But if you actually do get some clouds today, you get some rain, then you might not make it all the way to 90, 91, 92. You might only make it to 87, 88, 89 for a high. And the heat index today will be not too far from 100. Some places 98, 99, maybe actually hitting 100 for the heat index. Look, it's August. It's going to feel hot, but the heat is not dangerous. And that's the important part about today. You know, so often we talk about, oh, there's a heat advisory. Oh, there's a heat warning. heat index 110, 115, yada, yada, yada. But today, none of that, right? It's not the dangerous stuff. It's kind of tolerable. So hopefully you're able to spend a little bit more time outside and not feel like you're melting, because it can be that way pretty often in August. We were actually just talking about on Good Morning Mississippi earlier today. If you remember 2 Augusts ago, in August of 2023, we made weather history when we hit the hottest temperature ever to have ever been reported in Gulfport, Biloxi. It was the HOT. You know, we say the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Well, it was the hottest of all time, 107 degrees. That was 2 Augusts ago. Today, 90, it's nowhere near that stuff. So it's that does, bring me a small victory there, that we don't have to worry about that type of heat. So this is what we're going to talk about today in this edition of Waking Up with Wesley. We're going to break down the weather pattern. Why aren't we seeing the extreme heat? Why do we keep seeing some rain in parts of South Mississippi each day? It's all because of a stationary front and upstairs in the air, something called an upper trough. So those are the two things that are driving our weather pattern. They've been doing it pretty consistently each day. I know that not everyone is seeing rain every day, but I mean, if you look at this, we'll take a look at this and I'll make it full screen for you. Sunday was the last day that we had the most of the area with no rain. And even on Sunday, it actually rained near Gaucher, Pascagoula, even though most of the rest of us didn't see any. But look at Monday. So you look at this Monday rain map, you're seeing, okay, it didn't rain near Lucedale, it didn't rain in Poplarville, but we had some showers in parts of Gulfport, Biloxi, and in parts of Van Cleve, Gaucher on Monday. And on Tuesday, we saw another round of rain in Jackson, Harrison, and Hancock counties, even though maybe y'all missed it in Wiggins. So say it a different way, every day this work week, we've had rain somewhere in South Mississippi, at least in half the area. This is about 50% coverage on both of those days. And today we're expecting the rain coverage to again be about 40 to 50%. So rain is easy to come by when you have a stationary front sitting near the coast like it is doing there today. This is the reason why we see these rain showers continuing to easily bubble up, and why any given day here, if it's in the afternoon, you open your radar map, you're going to see rain somewhere across the Gulf Coast region because of this thing, this line with the red semicircles and blue triangles. What this used to be was a cold front. If you remember way back last Friday, this cold front was about up here and it kept moving slowly down to the south. But over the weekend, it pumped the brakes and it stalled, so it's just kind of meandering near the coast. And if we show you the futurecast, you'll kind of see how near that front where it's meandering, that's where you're going to kind of see some of these showers developing at times today into parts of Wednesday. I do remember yesterday evening, there were actually some rain showers that rolled into the coast from the northwest. Keep an eye out for that. Our modeling is indicating maybe we'll see another potential for that. You can see these in the Pine Belt around dinner time, and maybe they come down toward the coast as we go into the later evening hours. Some areas might see that. So don't be caught off guard by some of those evening and almost nighttime rain showers. Now, the stationary front is at the surface, but remember, the atmosphere has multiple vertical layers. Where we live is at the bottom of the atmosphere, the surface. But there's other layers, where the planes fly, where the hot air balloons go, where the space rockets go up, all of those other layers above us in the atmosphere. And that's what we talk about when I always say upstairs in the air. I'm referring to those other atmospheric layers. And this is what we find when we go upstairs in the air today. So there's a big heat dome sitting on top of the west portion of the country there, portion of the south, I guess you could say. And this high pressure heat dome that's off to our west is creating hot weather and dry weather near parts of New Mexico and Texas. There's also an upper high, this is a part of the Bermuda high, that's sitting offshore in the Atlantic. But between these two highs, what do we have? You would call it a low, but if you be really technical about it in the whole meteorological jargon of it all, a high pressure, an upper high is a closed circulation, a closed clockwise circulation. You can see how the winds come all the way around and close off. So that's why we call that an upper high. If it didn't completely close off, and if instead it just kind of went up like this and then down like that, but there was no bottom part, we would call that an upper ridge. So that's the difference. Upper high, closed off. Upper ridge, not closed off, but the same thing. And we do that also for upper low. You know, this is actually not an upper low because it's not closed off. It doesn't have that top part to it. So we don't call this an upper low. We actually call it an upper trough. So ridges and troughs, highs and lows, a whole bunch of meteorological jargon that you'll hear some of us meteorologists say sometimes. I tend to try to stay away from saying those words because it can get a little confusing and muddle the message of the weather forecast of the day. But with this type of pattern, there's no getting away from it. It's in control of our weather, and it really helps, I think, to understand why our weather is doing what it's doing. So between those two highs, where we are underneath an upper trough, and this is helping to promote a little bit of a wetter weather pattern and a less hot weather pattern. Don't take my word for it. Look at the high temperature forecast today. Where do you find the triple digit heat? It's right where you expect it, underneath the heat dome, underneath that upper high. That's where the triple digit heat is taking place on Wednesday in parts of Arizona, New Mexico, and at least western Texas. We're not under that, so we don't have to worry about that. Where we are is underneath that upper trough, and you can almost see it in the temperature pattern right there for the most part. See how those less hot temperatures are coming down our way. So we might only have a high around 90 today. Now, there's an interesting feature that happens near the Appalachian Mountains, the chain of mountains that sits off to our east. Sometimes you can get what's called cold air damming, which is a weather process involving mountainous regions that leads to cooler temperatures in a few places. So North Carolina not only going to see rain today, but also some cooler air because of that kind of temperature process for them. They're going to see rain because this is a look at the moisture setup. Beneath the hot heat dome, of course, there's a lot of dry air. So they're not getting rain in New Mexico, and it's pretty blazing hot over there too. But what happens when you have this upper trough coming down and then going back up like this, it kind of scoops up some of that Gulf moisture and kicks it up out ahead of it. You know, think of this like a leg, an ankle, a foot coming down and then kicking the moisture right on up. And so as this kind of kicks this moisture up, it creates lift in the atmosphere and causes those rising air currents, which lead to growing rain clouds, and you see those rain showers there. And there's a decent amount of this atmospheric moisture near that front along the coast, as well as ahead of the upper trough. So that's why those are going to be areas that get rain and showers today. You don't see the rain and showers near the heat dome for the most part. You instead see the rain and showers in areas that are right ahead of that upper trough, as well as very close to the stationary, well, let's redraw that, the stationary front along the Gulf Coast. So that's why you're seeing showers on the coast, stationary front, and an upper trough. And so that's why our forecast calls for that, about 40% chance of seeing those scattered showers and storms today. Temperatures upper 80s to lower 90s, and there's going to be some rain-free hours too. I think if you look at our WLOX weather app forecast, I mentioned this earlier, that as far as, you know, it can be kind of tricky to get the hour-by-hour expectation of this weather right, but so far it's actually behaving as I expected. We had some coastal showers around sunrise. We're catching a little bit of a lull, so I decreased the rain chance for this time down to the 20 to 30% range from the 8 a.m. hours to the noon hour. Then it goes back up heading into the 1 p.m., 2 p.m. time frame, and that actually continues into the evening. Especially, normally I drop it back to 30 at sunset, but I'm keeping it elevated in case we see those showers coming in from the north like they did last night. So let's quickly take a look at the tropics before we run out of time together. And as far as hurricane season 2025 is going, we've seen 4 named systems out somewhere in the Gulf, Caribbean, and Atlantic. And I'm so happy that out of those 4 names, they've had nothing to do with Mississippi. You find on the map here another day watching a tropical storm in the Atlantic. You can kind of see it a little bit better now that we're getting the daylight pictures, those low-level clouds really showing up right here. You can see them. But even though the low-level clouds, let's pause this. This is so fascinating to me. Let's split this storm in half. Let's use, how about, what color do I want to use? Let's use this green color, I guess. So if we split the storm right here, this is the center of Dexter. Now, on the left side of Dexter, what do we find over there? Do we find a lot of weather? No. All that's left is the naked surface clouds there. There's not much deep thunderstorm development. It's all being shoved to the eastern or the right side of the storm. And this is happening, and easily you can see it happening when we put this back into motion. You have this strong wind shear, which are winds upstairs in the air. They're blowing from west to east. And that is really just knocking those cloud tops over, making the system lopsided. And that wind shear really kind of limits how strong a system can get. So Dexter staying at tropical storm strength, not expected to become a hurricane because it's undergoing a lot of strong wind shear that's limiting its ability to get better organized and get more intense. And eventually, in a couple of days here, even though Dexter might maintain tropical storm strength for the next 12 to 24 hours, eventually it probably won't do that. Once you get to the weekend, it will just be a low pressure system out in the open waters of the Atlantic. We can take a quick look at the rest of the tropics, and you'll notice that there still is this medium chance for a tropical wave near Africa to become a depression or storm. It's so far out there, though, that we're just going to focus closer to home for now. And there still is this area being watched near South Carolina. We can zoom in on that and cut on our high-resolution computer model and watch this zone. Do we ever see some kind of circulation spinning up somewhere in this zone? Well, I don't really see it myself. It's hard to see much of a circulation spinning up there on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday. You don't really see anything very well defined there. So perhaps we're not going to see much development in that area in the short term in the next 2 to 3 days. We, of course, know as we go through hurricane season, we always tend to see that increase in activity as we get into the month of August. So don't be surprised if we are still tracking more activity the deeper we go into this month. So putting it all together, like we mentioned yesterday in the tropical headlines, Dexter's moving out to sea. That chance for development near Georgia, it did increase yesterday. It is maintaining at a medium chance, so we will update this to say that. We're maintaining the medium chance for development near Georgia, near South Carolina. And of course, that wave near Africa does have the potential to become a depression or storm. But the best part about the tropics is that there's actually no credible tropical threats that will bring any significant tropical impacts to the Mississippi coast, directly to our coast over the next 5 to 7 days. So when you look at this 7-day forecast, you are looking at no impacts, no direct impacts, no significant impacts from the tropics, none that I could find that would be credible. Again, computer models, there's probably plenty of hype that you can find easily on any video on social media all the time. Computer models during hurricane season will always, hype up possible storm. But until we see model agreement and model consistency over a long stretch of days, it can be difficult for me to treat information like that as actually being credible. So your 7-day forecast looks like that. with some scattered showers and storms at times today into tomorrow, maybe a slight decrease on Friday. And then we might actually get into some more of those daily rain chances into the weekend and next week. Well, that'll do it for this Wednesday edition of Waking Up with Wesley. I've been Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams. We'll see you again next time.
Waking Up with Wesley has been sponsored by Exclusive Auto Brokers. For the best deals on wheels, visit Exclusive Auto Brokers on Beatline Road in Long Beach.